Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the top of the show, this is a very special episode, a part 1 of 2, in fact. But we will reveal in a little bit what this episode is going to be about. But I think Joy has something just at the very top of the show.
Yes, this is going to be a long episode, so we will keep our little pieces of the show kind of short. But I just wanted to wish everyone, well, not everyone, this specific person, I want to make sure everyone knows today is Billy Idol's birthday. Did you know that, Tim?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, today was his birthday. I just happened to come across it. And I just thought we would wish him a happy birthday. And, keep rocking.
Absolutely. And he has a concert out where he was rocking at the Hoover Dam. Have you seen that?
Yes, I did whenever I was looking through this. Like when I was looking up stuff about him and I found out it was his birthday, I saw that. I haven't watched the whole thing, though. Did you watch it all?
Well, there's only clips available. I think it was in theaters for a time, and then it's going to be a pay-per-view thing. But it almost sounds like an Alan Partridge sketch. Idea for a television program. Billy Idol at the Hoover Dam.
You're kind of right. It's just really random. But he was sharing it on his Instagram, I think is where I saw it. Or maybe it was on the threads now, as Tim supports so generously.
Yeah, I've migrated to the threads. I'm basically done with Twitter. I'm that much close to deleting it completely because I'm done with it. There's a couple of people on there I like who have not moved off it, which is keeping me there. But yeah, I'm all about the threads. It seems to be quite a thriving community on threads at the moment.
All the threads. I've enjoyed it so far. And I had one, but then I didn't really use it. And then Tim kindly reminded me to go back over there. So I'm back on it.
There we are. See, well, welcome on board to the threads, Joy.
I mean, it's a pretty fun time if you're not there. We need to create a No Name Music Cast thread, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we would have to do it off the back of our Instagram account. But yes, we definitely
I can make that happen.
There we are. We definitely need to do that.
All right. Well, I'll let you take it from here, Tim.
Okay, so this week's episode, as I said, part 1 of 2, and we're going to be doing a track-by-track of the Dolly Parton Rockstar album. Now, this is a very long album. It's 30 tracks, and in fact, there's some different versions of it that even add even more tracks. So we figured it'd be better to break it into 2 episodes because, we like to go a little bit off topic and go off on tangents sometimes. And if we tried to do 30 tracks, we would be here till midnight, and nobody really wants a 4-hour No Name Music Cast episode, I don't think.
I think at about an hour and a half, they'd be like, I'm just going to click ahead.
Exactly. So we're going to do the first part of the album, tracks 1 to 15. But before we get into the album, we couldn't talk about this album without talking about Dolly and her halftime show at the Thanksgiving sports ball event.
There was a sports thing happening in a Dolly concert is what I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a halftime show between the Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys. And Dolly was performing some of her classic songs, Jolene being one of them, and 9 to 5. And then she performed We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions from this Rockstar album. And it was an interesting setup. So as with all these halftime shows, it's done on the main sports ball field, whatever they call that. And they bring all this staging in. She had a band up there. I mean, everything was to track. Dolly was not singing live, but I mean... No. Often these Super Bowl halftime and halftime performances otherwise are often just done to track. The band appeared to be playing. They were all plugged in and mic'd and amplifiers were switched on, but I don't think they were actually playing. But the interesting thing about this performance is that they had like a big star, which is like the Dallas Cowboys star type thing. And it had a platform in the middle where I assume Dolly was supposed to come up from and then perform from the top of there. But I heard that the mechanism failed.
That makes sense. I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, so she was just standing at the front of the stage singing. But, Dolly being Dolly, she's wearing impossible heels. She's wearing a Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders outfit, which at 77, no one should really look that good, to be honest with you.
It's the truth, man.
Yeah. And I mean, she was sort of, I wouldn't say stumbling around, but she was hanging onto the top of the scenery on a few occasions just because it was not where she was supposed to be performing. Yeah. And I don't know if the floor was shiny. Dolly being a professional, they probably was like 30 seconds before showtime. It's like, Dolly, the lift is broken. Okay, I'll just do it from the front then. There you go.
Yeah, and I kept noticing she kept putting her hand up on it a few different times to kind of hold over. But one thing I noticed, so I made some notes, and I thought that it was great. She opened with Jolene, then she went into 9 to 5. And I put a note saying, I love that she never complains and just gives the people what they want. Mm-hmm. So, like, a lot of artists will say, I don't want it, because, like, Jolene and 9 to 5 are probably her most played songs ever. And she knows that's what the people want to hear, though. And I like that that's how she opens it. But, yeah, I was kind of interested by the star. I was a little bit confused. And there was 2 things that caught on to it, Tim. Was one, she didn't have her guitar. So I honestly think she didn't know what to do with her hands.
True.
And she's used to having her guitar on stage, just like a safety net. As Tim's a guitarist, he realizes that it would be a whole different game if he was on stage without his guitar. Because it gives you something else to focus in on. So I wondered if some of the grabbing the star was A, her shoes, but B, it was because she didn't know what to do with her hands. And then I also thought, if you watched her, she was kind of walking around the star a lot and like peering at the audience to try to, she's used to, I think, being so much closer to the audience. And she was kind of using the star to peer around and be like, hey, I'm here, because it's a circle and she's down below the star.
Yes, absolutely.
So she was literally walking around, just kind of peeking over like, hi, I'm over here.
Yeah, and I mean, she was almost on the same level as the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders who were out in the audience. And the only reason I know that's the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders is because they recently performed with Queen and whoever that guy is, I'm not really care for singing. They did Fat Bottom Girls in Dallas, and then they came out and danced on stage. So that's the only reason I know who they are.
Well, and I thought it was cool that she let them be in front of her and it wasn't all about her. Because at the end of the day, it was one of those sports ball games. You know what I mean? And so I kind of like the Dallas Cowboys being up there. And then, of course, her We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You, which we'll talk more about, I know, when we get to the episode. But did you know it's being used for the Paris Olympics?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so apparently Dolly is a huge Olympics fan. She says she sets up her schedule during that time of year so she can watch as much of it as she wants to. And so they asked her to do a song for the American team for the Paris Olympics. And I think now it's like the theme, Ricky Martin did the Cup of Life. And then you had that Shakira song whenever it was in, I think, Rio or whatever, or no, South Africa. So yeah, that's what it's going to be used for. The We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, or We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You is going to be for the Paris Olympics.
Well, there you go. Look at Dolly. She's just all over the place.
Yeah, I thought it was because and I will say, if I'm listening to Queen, I tend to avoid those songs. But if you're doing it for something like the Olympics or the sports balls, it makes sense.
Yes, 100%.
Logical, very logical of her.
Well, there we go. So there we are. That's Dolly. And as she says, Dolly does Dallas. How do you like my outfit? That's how she opened.
It's so cute. Like Tim said, I mean, she looks fabulous. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Did you notice one of her backup singers was dressed up as Dolly?
No, I didn't clock that.
One of her backup singers. So at one point they pan over. So on one side you had, I think, he was a guitarist, but then he's playing the timpani drums at the beginning.
Yeah. I remember that chap. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. But then when they go to the other side, like on the other side of the stage, they go past the star. She had 3 backup singers, and one of them was dressed up as Dolly Parton.
That is absolutely fantastic.
I thought it was funny. I don't know. I just caught on to it. And the guy playing the timpani drums, man, he went at it, Tim. If he wasn't playing live, he gave it his best. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get into the show.
Okay, so we're talking about, as I said, the album Rockstar, which is an album that was released this year, 2023. And it all started because Dolly was nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she didn't want to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she said she didn't feel she was worthy. And secondly, she doesn't really perform rock.
Yep.
But she said, you know what, maybe this will inspire me to come up with a great rock album. So you fast forward a year or so, and then you have this 30-plus track opus from Dolly performing rock music. Now, Dolly can do anything. And obviously now we know that she can do rock too.
It came out at lightning speed, Tim, for this many. Because what I was thinking when I first looked at it, the sheer amount of people who wrote sing, perform, or contribute to this is crazy. The amount of time she got to get all these people together to produce this album, like, I mean, I don't know how she did it. Like, it's just crazy how quickly she came out with this.
Yeah, well, the album itself was produced by a chap called Kent Wells. And Kent Wells has been Dolly's band leader for over 25 years. And he owns a studio in Nashville, I believe. And, you know, has worked with Dolly, been the musical director for a lot of her concerts and all that kind of stuff. So he's intimately connected into the Dollyverse. To use the correct terms. And Dolly said, you know, Kent has produced so many of my CDs through the years. And I must say our latest blah, blah, blah world tour is an incredible human being. And so they have a connection. Yeah. And I think, like you were saying about getting these people together, it's because everyone loves Dolly. You know, if you're super conservative, if you're a LGBTQ person, if you're a whatever walk of life you come from, everybody loves Dolly. She crosses so many boundaries.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, like, all it would take is one call and you'd be like, I'm there. And there were a few artists that said they were really upset because they just didn't have the time to do it. I was reading some different artists who were like, she contacted me and I just didn't have the time to do it. And I'm kicking myself because I let it go past. Yeah,
exactly. Well, anyhow, so what we're going to do, we're going to go track by track, and we're going to do tracks 1 to 15, and then we will wrap them up on the next episode that you will hear. So let's open this with track 1. So this is the track Rockstar. Now, this is an original track. It's not a cover. And this one features Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi fame on guitar. Mm-hmm. And do you know what it reminded me of? When the track opened, it reminded me of Michael Jackson's Black or White, where it has like a spoken bit at the beginning and Dolly's talking and all this kind of stuff. What do you think?
That was the point. It also reminded me at the beginning of Twisted Sister. Mm-hmm. I want to rock when it goes right into it. And he's like arguing with his dad about being a rock art. I mean, it's cute. It was definitely a play on that. And I think that's fun because it's like her talking with what I imagine is like her parents or something back in the day or somebody saying, I want to be a rock star. And it's cute because also her joke about, being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and what started all this. She also says that her husband, Carl, is that his name? Dennis Carl? Yeah. He is super into rock music. Mm-hmm. And so she did this also in honor of him. And a lot of the artists she put on it are some of his favorite.
Yeah, that's cool. When you're Dolly and your husband likes something, you say, let's just speak to so and see if we can get them involved.
Oh, you want to buy this football team? Here you go. Here's the money. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like, you just imagine that works. But yeah, I just thought this was cute. It kept reminding me of, like you said, that's what the opening. And I also thought of Twisted Sister. I don't know.
That kind of thing. So anyway, we open up the album with the song Rockstar, because obviously Dolly is now a rock star. And if you've seen any of the imagery or photographs or anything, she's got an eye patch with her with the Dolly butterfly on it and the stars all over and all this kind of stuff.
I know. I like zoomed in and I'm like, oh, that's a butterfly.
And if you've ever been to Dollywood, there's butterflies everywhere.
And if you see her parade, there's butterflies everywhere. There's a butterfly garden you can walk through. It's her thing.
Yeah, and apparently she's heavily tattooed with butterflies. Apparently.
I don't know. She sometimes says that's true and sometimes says it's a joke. She started. I don't know. We'll ever know, Tim.
Well, according to Dolly Parton's America, when she was being interviewed, we know she's had a little bit of a little nip and a tuck here and there. And she said sometimes she gets some scarring. So I'll have some tattoos. And that's what she decided, apparently.
That's funny. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. We were joking about the way she looks. I like what she's like. It costs a lot of money to look like this.
Well, actually, no, she said, I think the quote is, it costs a lot of money to look this cheap.
Yeah, which makes it amazing. And, if you've ever heard the story on where she gets her look, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we're opening with Rockstar. And then we go into track 2, which I think was the single. And this is World on Fire. Now, again, this is an original track. This doesn't have any celebrity guests on it, but Dolly did perform this at the 58th Academy of Country Music Awards on May the 11th, 2023. So we had a preview of this track long before this album came out.
Mm-hmm. And she had that cool dress on at one point that like opens up. Did you watch the
Yeah,
performance?
I saw the performance.
So I will say this song, and I made Charlie listen to it too, because I wanted to hear his opinion on it, is lyrically so interesting. I'm not super religious or anything like that, because there is a little bit of that connotation at certain points. But the way she has an ability to make a hit is unmatched. And the breakdown about politics and things that she says in the song, amazing. Like, it is an amazing single. If you haven't heard this song, be prepared, because I was shocked at how good it is, Tim.
Yeah, and I think when it came out, a lot of people were just expecting some kind of token Dolly effort. And when this track came out, everyone's like, wow, this is actually really good.
It is so good. And it is a rock song. Like, it stands on its own. The wording is so good. And one thing that I was a common through this whole album, Tim, and I'll say it now, and I'll probably say it 7 times on the show, even if it's her song or it's another song, what she does, Dolly does well. And she does this thing. She's a storyteller in her words. And she says that too. But the way she sings and the way she chooses her syllables and the way she uses the inflection in her voice, it's like she's telling you a story.
Yeah.
And you can't help but listen. And this song went so well with it. There's just like some really cool lines in it too, like marching in the street, twist sticks and stones. Don't you ever believe words don't break bones? Like, it's fantastic. Like, it is, and it's kind of got like a punk sound to it in a way too. Like, it's so good, Tim. I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the other songs that we're going to get to are covers. There are some original songs in here too, but certainly of the original music on this album, this is by far the strongest track.
Yeah, you could tell she put a lot of work into this, and it's very obvious why it was the single.
Exactly. Well, her and Kent Wells have done good.
Good on you. All right. Next one.
It's all right. So the next track 3, this is when we first get into the rock covers. And there are a number of rock covers. In fact, the bulk of this album are rock covers with celebrities dropping in. So this is the very first one. But this one is quite interesting. So track 3 is Every Breath You Take, which is a cover of the Police song. Sting, obviously, is on this track, as he should be on vocals. But the interesting thing is that a lot of these other tracks on here, Dolly does a verse, the celebrity does a verse, Dolly does a verse, and they might join up in a few places. The interesting thing about this track is Sting is only doing backing vocals. He never does a verse. He's just doing backing vocals the whole way through.
It's so interesting you say that, because the thing I wrote down was I said her voice sounds amazing. I like the way it sounds. And I said the bottom, because he provided like a lower register harmony throughout the whole thing, which really filled the song out. And that's what I wrote down. I said it works. I love that, because Sting has a distinct kind of sound to his voice. And some people might even say he's not a great singer. I've heard, people say he's not like, he's not a Whitney Houston of the world. But with her lovely kind of soft, high-pitched voice and him providing just that round sound, really worked really well for this. And then I also wrote, once again, my storyteller. And this one I wrote, she's kind of like a preacher. Like, even though I've heard this song 1,000 times, when she's singing it, it's like she's telling me a new story. Yeah,
I can see that completely. And you know what's funny you're saying about like Sting's voice and he's doing a low harmony? Isn't it funny that Dolly is so high that Sting then does the low part? Because Sting is traditionally is the one who's way up there.
Yes, he's got a high-pitched sound to his voice. I mean, in a good way. Like, that sounds bad, but he's usually known for being, and he's providing, her voice is just so natural. And she's got like crystal clear pitch too, Tim. Like, it's just dead razor's edge on. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, as we said in the most recent Rolling Stones album, Hackney Diamonds, there is especially like the opening track and the second track on there, there is a little bit of auto-tune on Mick, just a tiny bit. And if you hear, you can hear it in there. But, I mean, I listened to this album a few times, and I think Dolly's voice is pure. I don't think there's any of that going on.
There's one song there might be. We'll get to it. But other than that, no, it's pure. I'll be curious if you think the same. You might be thinking of the same song I'm thinking of. But I don't know if it's for her benefit or it's for the other person singing with them benefit.
Yeah, and I think we'll be. I know the one that you're thinking of, and we'll get onto that later on. But as I said, this was a pretty solid cover. I believe it is in the same key, so it sounds right.
Yep.
And yeah, this is the first taste of where Dolly's going in this album.
Exactly. Very interesting. But yeah, I liked it. I liked this version. I thought it was nice. Excellent.
All right. So we move on to track 4. This is with Steve Perry of Journey fame, who's no longer in Journey, but he's known as sort of the singer of Journey through all of the classic hits.
And that guy with the hair.
Yes.
Sorry, continue.
And this is a cover of the track Open Arms. And this sets the tone for how the rest of the album goes with regards to guest vocalists, where Dolly does a verse and Steve does a verse and Dolly does a verse and Steve does a chorus. It's that kind of format.
Yeah. And was it just me? I wrote this down, but I thought Steve Perry sounded different in this song than he normally does. He had a different sound to his voice than what I associate with him.
Yeah, I thought that too, because you think of the classic Journey, it has that classic Steve Perry voice. And, I always come back to We Are the World.
Yeah.
And, in his sort of line in We Are the World is so iconic, and you can just tell that it's him. The thing is, you have to remember how much older he is. And I think he left Journey because he was having problems with his voice originally, I think.
Yeah, because when I think of him, and he's got to be in his 70s by now. I mean, he has to be. But what's interesting is, and you're right, but for some reason it took me off guard because he has kind of like we were saying about Dolly in his Journey days, he was distinctly known as having a very nice pitch, like that kind of strong, right? And he sounded almost rugged. It was good. It just took me off guard. I wasn't expecting it.
It wasn't classic Steve Perry that you would recognize from Journey.
Now, does that mean it wasn't good? No, I'm not saying that. It just took me off guard.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I had to look because I thought, is that Steve Perry? And then I looked and I went, oh, yeah, so it is Steve Perry. But that's the thing, especially with men. When they get older, it's sometimes hard for them to hit those super high notes. Whereas female singers tend to be able to sing higher all the way through. And like Dolly, I mean, she's way up there still.
Oh, yeah. And her speaking voice, it's natural. It's interesting you say that because when you hear her speak, she kind of has this thing, and I've talked about it a few times on the episode. They talk about the way people say their vowels, especially British people. Mm-hmm. It gives them a natural ability with singing. And when she speaks, she kind of has that tone to her voice in a way. I'm not saying she sounds British. I just mean the way she says her vowels, I think, comes out when she sings, and it helps with that. Yeah. There you go. Also, when he cut his hair, Tim, and maybe he lost some of his vocal cords. I don't know.
He could have. I'd imagine that most of his vocal tone is in his locks.
Obviously. Or when he stopped wearing such tight pants. We'll never know.
I think it's a delicate house blend of both.
Has he always, when he's pictured in the 80s, if you guys have never, look at him, his hair is always, it's almost a mullet in a way. Like it's a shag long kind of mullet type thing. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes it was even longer. He always had very distinct bangs. He kind of has a pointy nose, but every time you see him, his shirt and his pants were literally glued to him. He has the tightest clothes of any rock star.
And for those people outside the United States, bangs is a fringe.
Okay.
just doing a service for our international listeners.
Oh, I thought you were just making fun of me.
No.
Yes, bangs are a fringe. Good.
See, I didn't know when I first moved here and people were talking about cutting their bangs. It's like, what are you talking about?
I mean, it makes more sense for it to kind of be a fringe. I don't know where bangs came from. It's kind of weird.
I have absolutely no idea.
America. Anyway, all right. What's the next song, Tim?
Okay, so the next one, track 5, it's a Heart cover. It's Magic Man. And it's got Ann Wilson from Heart. And then Howard Leese, the original Heart guitarist, is playing guitar in this. One thing I thought was interesting, especially following on from the knowledge I now have about Taylor Swift, this is called Magic Man, and then in brackets it says Carl version. Mm-hmm. So it's her little tribute to the Taylor's version.
I think it's cute. And I So, first of all, I've said many times, Ann Wilson can do no wrong for me.
Mm-hmm.
Her voice is absolutely gorgeous. I have said many times that there are two artists in the world that I will not sing because I would never do them justice, and it's Heart and it's Blondie. I can't sing either of their music. I tried once and I said, Joy, never again. You're doing a disservice to these people. And so for her to be able to, and Dolly, of course, sounds crystal clear, perfect. But I mean, for those who aren't singers or aren't musicians, like anything from Heart is hard to sing. It just is.
Yeah.
And it sounded perfect.
And the thing is, Nancy Wilson is no slouch either. Nancy Wilson sang Alone.
Yeah.
She sings the verses in Alone. Both of them are such amazing, strong singers. But yeah, as ever, Dolly comes through with her power, and there she is. But you know, another funny thing, another interesting thing is all the way through these songs, she's singing these rock songs, and it still sounds a little bit country.
It does. It's so cute. And that's what I think that's where the storytelling comes into, because country music is storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like she's like, every time, even when she's singing the rock, it comes out. And like I said, it's like almost like a preacher talking to you. And it's songs I've heard 1,000 times, but there's just that little bit of hit there. It's cute though. She sounds fantastic, and the arrangements are so good.
Yeah, it must be said, Ken Wells has done a fabulous job. I mean, I looked at the credits, and there's so many Ace session people all over this album. But I mean, he produced it. I think he mixed some of it as well, and he's done a very good job. And I suppose having that relationship with Dolly as well, being Dolly's musical director, really knows how to get the best out of Dolly.
Makes sense, though. And I mean, there's also another, I don't know who Howard Leese is, Tim, but he was featured on this too.
Yeah, Howard Leese is the original Heart guitarist.
Oh, that's who that was. Okay, so I guess he's playing on this as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he features on this track together with Ann Wilson.
That's kind of cool. I mean, that makes sense though why it sounded so dead on too, then.
Sure.
Yeah. I saw his name, but I wasn't sure who he was. Sorry, guys. I don't know everything. I know very little, actually. I just smile and nod a lot and hope that what I said is true. Kidding. But yeah, I'm always a Heart fan. And if you put Ann Wilson and Dolly together, it really can't go wrong, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I like 80s Heart. I mean, 70s Heart is great, but I do like the 80s Heart. I think that's got a really interesting sound about it as they sort of move through the decades and embrace the sound that was popular at the time. But really, Heart in general, you can't go wrong with that.
Yep, I could agree with that. All right, next song.
Next song is track number 6. This is a CCR track. Features John. I would say John Fogerty, though in this land they say John Fogerty.
Yep.
And this is Long as I Can See the Light. So
I thought it was interesting that they chose this song. Mm-hmm. So I love CCR. I'm familiar with this song, but it's not a huge CCR hit, I would say. It's not like a song everybody knows. I don't know about in the UK, but in America, this is definitely not like I See a Bad Moon Rising or something like that.
No, it's an interesting choice of a cover. I'd heard that song, but I wasn't intimately familiar with it like I am with all the other Green River and all that kind of stuff.
What I thought, like I've heard this, like it's almost radio filler for CCR to me, but I was like, I thought it was interesting. Was that a saxophone throughout it, Tim, or was I going crazy?
I think there could have been one in there somewhere.
Go back and listen to it if you had a second. And sorry guys, I got tongue tied there. Sax, it ran together with everything I was trying to say, and I swear there was a saxophone that sounded kind of cool in the background.
Very possibly. As I said, if you bring up the Wikipedia article for this album, the studio musician credits are, as they say, as long as your arm. So the fact that there would be a saxophone on it wouldn't really surprise me.
And I just thought that was an interesting choice because, I mean, I've heard the other song. I don't think I remember there being a saxophone in anything by CCR. They don't really come off as sax people. But I just was like, that's an interesting choice. And I like the line, I guess I've got that old traveling bone. I always thought that was a cool line in that song. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Dolly does have a traveling bone because she travels absolutely everywhere. Well, not as much as she used to. I mean, she used to tour routinely, but I don't know whether we'll see Dolly on tour again. Probably not, if I had to guess.
I mean, she's allowed to rest.
I mean, she's 77 for goodness sake.
Yep. And I will say though, I mean, John Fogerty seems like somebody who has a traveling bone too. They sounded nice together though. I hadn't really heard John Fogerty on anything in a while, so it's kind of nice to hear his voice. He still sounds very similar to back in the old days.
He does. And then, one question I have for this whole album project generally, I wonder how many of these artists actually met Dolly, or how much of this was like they recorded it in their home or studio and then sent the files over.
I wondered that too. And what's funny is, have you ever heard the thing about Dolly literally communicates with people via fax?
No.
So Miley Cyrus, her goddaughter, swears that the only way to get Dolly's attention is she like uses a fax machine and then sends it to her assistant, and then her assistant like types it out in a text message and sends it to the other person.
That speaks to someone who's older, who has embraced a certain era of technology, and they're very comfortable with that.
It's just so interesting that fax, like a fax. I mean, she's not even writing it down. I guess maybe she is handwriting it, sending it on the fax. But I find it funny that she has an assistant that takes an extra step, transfers the fax into a text message or an email, and sends it off to whoever needs it.
Well, I can tell you, when I used to work for the London Borough of Hounslow, I used to work with some of the elected members there who were over the town. And there was one in particular who couldn't work his computer, so his assistant would print his emails out.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I learned, so do not quote me on this. I'm not telling you to do this. This is not something I am recommending to advance your career. This is not HR advice. This is just something I may have learned once. And I may have learned it from Paris Hilton and now know there's a name for it. Tim is like, where the heck is this going? So there was an episode of The Simple Life that Paris Hilton was on. If you guys don't know, that this is a show where her and Nicole Richie went out and did stuff they didn't know how to do, like shopping in Walmart or ironing clothes. And it was actually quite funny. And it's funny now because I always find it humorous when people don't realize that a lot of that is a character.
Mm-hmm.
Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, all these people are selling you a brand, a character. Guys, this isn't, you know what I mean? Some people talk about, oh, her voice doesn't really sound like, no, of course it doesn't, guys. You guys are like, don't fall for but it did make for good entertainment, right, Tim?
Absolutely.
But anyway, in one episode, this is when she's a little bit smarter than you realize come out. She said something to Nicole Richie and she goes, Nicole didn't want to do something, or she was being asked to do something. And Paris goes, do it badly and no one will ever ask you to do it again. And so I may have had a previous upper level coworker who I liked as a person, but he constantly needed my IT help and I just did not have the time to do it. And he needed to do something with a PDF. And Tim actually knows this about me. I'm pretty IT savvy, more IT savvy than the average person. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, when you work in HR, you're just all hands on deck for anything. And so I guess I was also IT for this guy. And he asked me to how to print it to a PDF. And I went, or he said it was displaying wrong on his screen. I walked in the back of my mind, I heard Paris Hilton just say, do it wrong. And I went, oh, I think you do it like this. And I did it completely wrong. I was like, I don't know. And I walked off. So he wouldn't ask me to do it again.
But yeah, that's sage advice for you.
I have no idea how I got there and what that had to do with anything we were talking about.
Well, let's move on to the next track on this this Dolly album recap part 1.
Or somebody's like, wasn't this a Dolly Parton episode? Why did she talk about Paris Hilton? All right, moving along.
Okay, so track 7. This is a track called Either Or. This is an original track, and it features Kid Rock. Now, put your opinions of Kid Rock to one side, and of which people probably have many opinions about Kid Rock. But let's just focus on the art here, not the artist. I think this is of the original tracks, probably the strongest one on here with the collaborations. I think this is a really good song.
It is. And my notes say trying to be open-minded. I love the opening. It's really cool sounding. Can we just let Dolly sing it alone?
That's true. But I don't know. I thought the pair of them worked really well together.
I know, but I was struggling to put it aside.
Yeah, as I said, we're completely pulling the art away from the artist and just put everything you know about Kid Rock to one side. I just think of the collaboration original tracks.
It sounded good.
This is a really good track. I think this is one of the strongest ones. And I think if this was released as a single, I think it would do pretty well.
Well, the other thing is even though I'm not huge on him, he actually sounds better in this song than I've heard him in a lot of other songs. He sounded quite good.
I would agree too. I don't have any fault with this at all.
He sounded nice. And their voices worked really well together. It had like a really cool breakdown, like from the intro to the next, like I guess verse or whatever it was, bridge, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, it was honestly, it was kind of fun, is what it was. And some of the other tracks are very drawn out, and this one seemed just kind of fun.
Yeah, and it has like Kid Rock at the end doing a spoken outro type thing going on.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, all things considered, I actually thought this was quite good. You're not wrong.
We have a breakthrough, ladies and gentlemen. There's Joy is embracing a piece of art made by Kid Rock.
It may never happen again, so take this in as you can.
See, and that's what Dolly has done. Dolly has brought all these different people from all these different viewpoints and all the different parts of the world, and she's brought them together, and everyone loves Dolly, so that's why she makes it happen.
I will say, actually, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Kid Rock is a very specific memory involving Tip. There's that All Night Long song or All Summer Long or whatever. His version of Werewolves of London mixed with Sweet Home Alabama is what it sounds like. But anyway, me and Tim, I don't know what it was, but when I used to work with Tim, I was at his office door talking to him about something, and his boss came in and we were discussing that song. And Tim's boss is really into like music and that kind of stuff. He's super interested in the rock world, pretty knowledgeable about some bands. I'm not super familiar with it, but he does know some stuff. And so he was talking with me and Tim, and he goes, and when he said that about his rhyming in the song, where he rhymes the same word with the other word, and now every time I think of Kid Rock, that's all I could think of.
Yeah, he rhymes funny things with funny things.
Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't remember which one it was, but yeah, for some reason, every time I think of Kid Rock now, I have an image of that scene where me, you, and Chip were speaking.
Yeah, and I can also tell you that Kid Rock, when he played the Shepherd's Bush Empire in London in the early 2000s, was a very, very good show.
It's so weird to me that of all the people you saw in London, you saw Kid Rock. Like, you talk about all these artists that you missed, and then you're like, but I made it to Kid Rock.
The tickets were not that expensive, Joy.
I know, it's just random of all people. I mean, I did listen to him back in the day, so I mean, he was mildly popular for a while, I guess. Moving along. Okay. Track 8 is another original track.
This is I Want You Back, and this is Steven Tyler of Aerosmith fame and Warren Haynes, the guitar player from Government Mule and the Allman Brothers, is playing guitar on this track. What did you think of this one?
I like this one. And so here's what I thought. This is what I wrote. I said, first of all, I thought the guitar riff was really cool. I like that it was sassy, because if you're going to put Steven Tyler on a song, it better be a sassy song. Like, it has to be. I said that I feel like they didn't do like classic harmonization. They're mostly just singing, beside each other and doing their own riffs and stuff. Yeah. There's no like real harmonies or anything like that you hear in a lot of the other tracks on here, because there are a lot of good harmonies. But I liked them together, and I instantly thought this would be the coolest song on the whole album to see live. If you could see her and Steven Tyler together with this sassiness, I think it would be a cool dynamic on stage.
Absolutely. And they both look like a friendly grandma.
It's true. And that seems to be a thing. When rock stars start aging, they start to look like old women.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Elliott is the same.
Who was it that I said was from Rush, right? I thought it was Steve Tyler.
Yeah, Geddy Lee.
I was running through my Facebook the other day, and I screenshotted it to Tim, and I said, I seriously thought she was in an Aerosmith concert. Just like scanning through real quickly. I mean, he looks like an old lady, too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Jimmy Page looks like a friendly old lady as well.
He really does, and he's got better hair than most of the old ladies I know, so,
Well, there we are. Good on you, Jimmy Page.
He's probably like, I think that was a compliment if he's because he's totally listening, Tim. He listens every week.
He does. He lives in Windsor. He listens, you know.
Tim actually sent him a note the other day just thanking him for all the times we've hung out.
Yeah, when we look in the stats and I see a listener in Windsor, I know it's either going to be Elton John or Jimmy Page, one of the two.
Obviously. Anyway, but no, what did you think of this track? I really liked it, but I feel like it would have been better live.
Yeah, I liked it too. I didn't like it as I thought the Kid Rock track was stronger, but it's classic Steven Tyler. When he starts singing and making all his Steven Tyler noises, it's like, this is exactly how it should be.
But do you get what I mean? Wouldn't this be a cool one to see live?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Like, if I were going to put one of these songs on live, this would be one of the top ones I would see, because that is one thing about Steven Tyler is he kind of is in that, I don't want to say kiss camp, but he is in a way of like he's a full, like he's a stage show.
Yeah, he's a character. When you say Steven Tyler, you see him on stage and you see he's got all the scarves coming off his mic stand. It's the character of that, yes.
And the microphone's right in his face and he's moving it with his whole body.
Oh, 100%.
For those who don't know, I mimicked that and Tim had to witness it. It was great. I was so good at it. Just like Steven Tyler. Anyway, but yeah. So yeah, I thought it was cool, but I think out of everything, this one I'd want to see live.
There we are. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's move on to the next track. This is track 9. It's called What Has Rock and Roll Ever Done For You? This is another original track. This one features Stevie Nicks, your friend Stevie Nicks, and Waddy Wachell is playing guitar, who is an incredibly famous and renowned session guitar player who's played with absolutely everyone. Now, this one is the first of the ones that has like the spoken intro and a spoken outro. And at the beginning it says, "Hey Dolly, hey Stevie, who's first?" "Well, Dolly, it's your first album, so you better go first." And it's like that kind of stuff.
And then she goes, "But Stevie, it's your song," or something. I don't remember.
I mean, that bit was a little bit cringy, if I'm being honest.
It was. But what's funny is I thought it was interesting they point out the reason I know she says, "But Stevie, it's your song," it's because this was very obviously a Stevie Nicks song by the way it's written. And what I mean by that is Stevie Nicks songs are always, I wrote Stevie Nicks in big capital letters on my notes just so everybody knows, but Stevie Nicks songs are always super detailed, like lyrically. Like, she does a really good job at, like, the pop rock world, but her lyrics are super detailed and almost eccentric in a way. Like, they're just very long and detailed. And so if they hadn't said Stevie Nicks wrote it and I hadn't looked it up, I would have known. It just sounded like her.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I haven't looked at the album credit, the actual writer, but it wouldn't surprise me. They say it's a it always is a Stevie Nicks written song.
I looked it up because I was curious when they said that, and like my brain was just like, if I didn't, I was like, it has to be. But I actually preferred the outro. The intro was crunchy, but I like when she's like, "What about some of that peak champagne?" And then because Stevie Nicks is sober, she's like, "Well, Dolly, I don't drink no more." And then Dolly goes, "Well, I don't drink no less." I thought that was way better than the cringy intro. I had that in big capital letters because I thought that was funnier. I forgot what the whole song was about. That's the only part. Because Dolly's really funny. If you ever hear her make jokes, she's actually quite humorous.
Oh, well, Dolly is completely self-aware and is funny.
She's very funny. If you've never watched her in it, and she laughs at herself. Like, she's so funny. If you've never seen her like do an interview, you're missing out because they're always great. And I've heard her tell stories, and she'll like be deadpan telling them this story, and then at the end it'll turn out it was completely all a joke. And the interviewer's like, "What?"
Yeah,
so good.
I mean, as I said earlier on in the episode, I listened to that podcast, Dolly Parton's America, and I highly recommend people listen to that. And they talk all the way through it about the Dolly verse and getting to know what Dolly is all about. But I mean, you know, like I said, she's super self-aware. She's happy to make fun of herself, and she's just so incredibly kind.
And I think one thing that helps Tim, and as somebody who Tim knows, I make fun of myself all the time. I'm very self-aware, and I learned at a young age everything people say, because like I know I'm loud, I know I speak fast, I know like all these things about myself, right, Tim?
Mhm.
But I'm so like most things people tell you aren't going to hurt your feelings if you already know them about yourself. So it's super interesting the way she does that. It's very logical.
Yeah. Well, as we know, Dolly can do no wrong.
Yep. All right, but yes, I just thought that was funny. Well, I don't drink no less. Anyway, next song.
Okay, so this is track 10, and this is a cover of the song Purple Rain, the Prince song Purple Rain. The thing about this, it doesn't have any guests on it. There's no celebrity guests on it. Now, obviously, Prince isn't around to play on it, but I mean, you could have had any number of celebrities playing the guitar solo or whatever on this. But the thing that got me is it's 9-10 minutes long or whatever. It's like a long version of Purple Rain. It's almost like a Flagger Hill length version of Purple Rain, but it doesn't have the iconic guitar hook that burn 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 bum. It doesn't have that in it. And I was like, Dolly's scatting away and she's singing and stuff like that. And there's a guitar solo going on in the background. And I thought, well, whoever's playing this is going to have to pick up on that little burn bump sooner or later. And they don't.
And I'm going to say this, and this is not to critique Dolly because I would never, but this was my least favorite track on the entire album.
Yeah, it didn't really do much for me either. It was a straight cover. And it could, this, you could have had, I don't know, Slash, for example, playing the lead guitar on that. And then he could have, lit the end of that track up and he could have been going backwards and forwards with Dolly.
So cool too.
It would have been fantastic. And I wonder whether they had someone in mind for that, and whoever it was, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, so my exact notes were I liked the choir choice. I thought that was cool because it made a big larger than life. It was good, but it just wasn't interesting. And I felt like of every song in the album, they could have left this one off and I would have been fine.
Yeah, I don't think it added anything. It was I like the stuff Dolly was doing towards the end, but it was pretty much a karaoke classic. I don't think it added anything to the original.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying it. And you talked about how long it was. I'm going to be honest. I listened to this over the weekend, and then I listened to it again today. At least the first 15 songs because we were going to talk about it. And this song, I just got distracted. It just stopped. I phased out at some point. And it's not to insult her. It sounded good, but like Tim said, it kind of did remind you of like every local band doing Purple Rain.
Exactly. Unless it's Flagger Hill doing Purple Rain, then you would know. You'd listen.
I think you got some biases, sir. No, but the Flagger Hill. I've said this many times, and I will say this again. I don't remember your lead singer's name, but he has a great voice, and he sounds good singing Purple Rain. Yeah, and that does not always happen.
Yeah, Mr. Bill Williams, he is the jewel in the Flagger Hill crown. He is a fabulous singer,
Yeah, because that is generally, and this is not to insult local bands, but we all know it, Tim, that is usually the one thing they struggle with is a well-rounded singer. They can sing some things, they can do certain things, but then they try to sing somebody like Steve Perry and their voice just does not reach. Yeah. And they don't know how to, they refuse to sing it in a lower register because they think it's going to sound different to the audience and they're a cover band. You know what I mean, Tim? And so, because I don't know if you know this, Tim, but I can sing the same notes here as I can here.
Yes.
Did you know that? Like if I sing here and I sing a C, it's still a C. And if I sing up here and I sing a C, it's still, anyway, I digress. Let's move along. But that's my critiques for the local bands who do that.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, so we're now on to track 11. This is a cover. This is Baby I Love Your Way, a Peter Frampton song. Now, Peter Frampton performs backing vocals, and the reason he got in on this session is apparently a friend of his, a mutual friend of his, was doing backing vocals on the Steven Tyler track, and he sort of got involved with it through that connection. Now, I said he does the backing vocals with Dolly, and also he sings, I think he sings a verse or two on it as well. He does an acoustic guitar solo on it. Yeah. And it sounded incredibly clunky to me. He plays it on the track. It's like on electric guitar. He plays this on acoustic. And I don't think that it was recorded well, or it was not mic'd properly, or he recorded it away from the session and then sent the track in. it just doesn't sit in the track right for me. I don't know what you think.
So I didn't pay attention to that at all.
Oh,
I have zero notes about that because it's interesting. This is going to be the perfect example of the way Tim listens to a song and the way I listen to a song. They're very different. Tim listens to them as a guitarist and I listen to them as a vocalist. This is actually one of the top 3 of the album for me.
oh,
I really liked it. But to be fair, this is one of my favorite songs, period, like in the world. Mm-hmm. So I probably had a biasy. And I remember I just started singing along while I was working to it today. So I probably zoned out and just was singing in my own head and didn't even notice the guitar part.
There we are. I mean, again, Dolly's doing a great job. Peter Frampton, he's older, and his verses don't sound as good as they did on Frampton Comes Alive or something. But it's fine. But for me, it's like a sore thumb that sticks right out.
See, and what I wrote was, I put, this is one of my favorite songs, period. I said her tone was beautiful with the opening. The opening of the Baby I Love Your Way was really good. I thought when Peter Frampton joining in the chorus balanced her out nicely because he did have a lower register sound. And as we know, we want that full kind of sound on a song. Sometimes you layer on yourself, sometimes you layer with someone else. I thought that sounded right. And I thought her voice just sounded, I think the key was, I thought Dolly's voice sounded beautiful with this song. And I love this song. I did not notice the guitar because I was too stuck on her voice. There you go, everybody. But me and Tim had very different opinions on this one. But now I got to go back and listen to it because where in the song is the guitar solo? Because I don't even remember hearing it.
It's about halfway through.
So just like halfway. Okay. I will go back and re-listen and update the world when I actually pay attention to it, apparently.
There we are.
I cannot speak of either of these. All right. And the next one I'm very excited about.
Yes. So track 12 is I Hate Myself for Loving You. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, they're performing on this. And this is another one with a cringy spoken intro. Hey, Joan. Hey, Dolly. Don't you just hate it? I sure do. Well, grab your guitar. It's a little cringeworthy.
Yeah, and there was no funny outro like I don't drink no less. So I don't like that. But I love this song. I love this song, period. For those who don't know, it is my favorite Joan Jett song, period. My favorite Joan Jett songs are I Hate Myself for Loving You, Crimson and Clover, and Do You Want to Touch. Those are my 3 favorite Joan Jett songs, period. And they're both like I listen to them all the time. And on my Wrapped or whatever everybody's sharing, by the way, my Wrapped broke on Spotify, Tim. I can't share it with anybody.
Oh, really?
I looked at it once and then I went back in and I get an error message.
Oh, that's terrible.
I was so mad, but I did see it for a few seconds. And this was one of like the 3rd played song of 2023 was I Hate Myself for Loving You. It is my go-to song to scream when I'm in a bad mood or something. And I wrote, so fun. I said perfection, just absolute perfection. Cool harmonies over the chorus. I wasn't expecting Joan to do that. And I said, I would absolutely be beside myself if I saw this live with her and Dolly. Those were my notes.
Yes, I think this would be one. I mean, I don't know if Dolly's planning on performing any of this live. Probably not.
Probably not. But and I don't know. Like, I mean, it's a kind of a hard song to screw up for me, but I think it might be my favorite song on the entire album.
Interesting. But well, I suppose because you love the song anyway.
Yes, and I love Joan Jett. And one thing I will say that I really, really, really appreciated throughout this whole album, and as we talk about it, is Dolly. I don't know if you know this, but she's a woman, and she included so many women on this rock album that don't always get, you know what I mean? Like women get forgotten a lot in the rock world. And I love that there's just as many, if not more, women on this album. So that could also be part of my bias because I think that Joan Jett's an amazing artist and she doesn't get enough credit.
No, Joan Jett is a fantastic artist.
And I may have had someone that me and Tim mutually know that I got into it over women singing rock music. So I might have some biases.
Absolutely. Well, women, there are some fabulous female rock singers out there. Absolutely fantastic.
I mean, if you can't hear Heart and know how good that sounds, you need to get your ears checked.
100%.
Like, they can do no wrong. Moving along. But yes, this is probably my favorite song of the entire album. At least top 3.
There we go. Okay. Well, let's move on to track 13. This is a cover of the song Night Moves. The original, which I believe is a perfect song, and Joy agrees with me on that.
Yep.
Now, this one, she is singing with Chris Stapleton, who is the country music singer of the moment, it seems. Everyone seems to love Chris Stapleton. I'd be happy never to hear Tennessee Whiskey ever again in my life, because it's the modern day Sweet Home Alabama, where it's on every cover band set.
I can honestly say I've heard it like once, so I'm very lucky.
I've played it at least once a week for the last 10 years or whatever, however long the song, probably not 10 years, but however long that song's been out.
Better you than me.
Yeah. So Chris Stapleton is singing with Dolly. Apparently, they tried to get Bob Seger, but he was having some problems with his voice, so he couldn't do the session. So Chris Stapleton stepped in. The problem with this song is that they've had to pitch the key up to suit Dolly, because Dolly sings in a high register. And this is a kind of a low song. It's in F. And I don't know what they've pitched it up to, A or something like that.
I think it's A.
Yeah. It sounds off.
I think it's interesting you say that, because listen to what my notes say. Greatest song ever written, and then I put a laughing face, because me and Tim have a theory that I don't want to say greatest song, but it's the most perfect song as far as a pop rock ballad goes. If you've never heard that theory, for me, it's basically, if you're ever in a mood and you just want to hear a song that hits every emotion in some way, put on Night Moves with a good pair of headphones. Right, Tim? And you'll feel everything.
Or alternatively, if you're driving down the motorway, interstate, highway, whatever, and there's a red sky just showing, put on Night Moves, and then it's perfect. And that may have happened in a Knight Rider episode, but that is beside the point.
Anyway, so first of all, me and Tim have very high expectations for Night Moves. Is what I'm getting at. And I said, at the beginning, she changes the wording. Did you catch that?
Yes.
Instead of tight pants, she says tight skirt and a few things. I said, interesting. I said, Chris Stapleton sounds good, but I miss Bob Seger, and I wish it was a little harder and rocked a little bit more, because Night Moves is intense and it flows, and this just felt like, eh. And the other thing I said was, and this is why I said it was interesting, as much as I love Dolly, this felt off, or it lacks something for me. And I don't think I picked up on the key change until you said it, and now it makes sense why I said this fell off.
Yeah, they've said they've had to take the key up.
They modulated it.
Yeah, and it just doesn't sound good to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Dolly's got a great voice, but Night Moves is such an iconic song for me. And without Bob, no, if Bob Seger had been singing on it, I think he could have rounded it out better than Chris Stapleton. Chris Stapleton sounds lovely, but this isn't a lovely song. This is emotion and attacking, and like it's got to have that feel. Do you know what I mean, Tim?
Yeah. And you know what? You I don't know whether you'll agree with this. I think this would have been better with Kid Rock singing it than Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, because he's got a more rugged voice.
Yeah.
It literally, there's 1,000 other people I think could have done this before Chris Stapleton, and it would have sounded better.
Yeah, I got nothing against Chris Stapleton. His first album, Traveler, is actually pretty good, but this doesn't suit him, and he was shoehorned in because Bob Seger was not available. I don't know. This one doesn't add anything to the Night Moves universe for me.
You know who would have also sounded good singing this? Who was it weird about? Was it Steve Perry that I was saying?
Mm-hmm.
Where his voice he would have sounded good because of where his voice sounds deeper now. I think he could have done it probably better than Chris Stapleton too. There you go. Anyway, everybody.
Well, let's move on to the next track 14.
Yeah.
This is Wrecking Ball with Miley Cyrus, who is the original singer of this song, if you didn't know that. And Miley Cyrus, of course, Dolly is her godmother.
Yeah. So I actually saw Miley and Dolly perform this live. They performed it live together at the New Year's Rockin' Eve thing that Dolly and Miley did together. That's their couple name, Molly. But, and it was so good. But what I found super interesting, first of all, I think Wrecking Ball is a great song, and I think it's very addicting. But did you catch on? Dolly is singing the lower register, and Miley is singing the higher harmonies. And I was surprised by that choice. Miley can sing. We discussed this, 2 or 3 episodes ago really well. If you didn't know, we and Tim had a whole conversation about this. But I thought it was an interesting choice because Miley's voice can be deep. Like, that's why she does well with rock songs in some way. But they switched it up to what you thought it would be. Dolly is singing the lower part, and Molly, there we go again. Miley is singing the higher register. And I was like, wait a second. That's so cool. I wasn't expecting it to go that way.
Yeah, and now I know about Miley Cyrus. It doesn't surprise me because she is a fantastic singer. And as I said, I had no real opinion on Miley Cyrus apart from her sort of a celebrity kind of persona. But it doesn't surprise me. Having seen lots of videos of her singing live, I completely get it.
Well, and then did you pick up at the end so the end has an outro that's I Will Always Love You?
Yes.
And the funny part is they swapped it. When they go to I Will Always Love You, Dolly's singing the higher part and Miley's singing the lower register. And I wondered because it was her song, whereas Wrecking Ball was Miley's song. Do you know what I mean? They wanted to get them on those parts. I thought that was cool. They swapped it. I don't know. Maybe I was the only one who noticed that, but it stood out to me. I
can tell you that Kent Wells was very pleased with that when he did that arrangement. Probably.
I would think so. I don't know. I don't know if he personally did it, but we'll pretend like he did. I just imagine Dolly did all of it and she just gave him a finalized album and he pressed play. She's such a perfectionist.
It could be. It could be.
But that could just be because I think Dolly could do no wrong. But I don't know. I just thought that was super cool. And I love that song and it sounds good. They probably wanted Miley to sing the melody and then Dolly to provide the harmony, but you would think it would be flipped the other way. It was cool to me. Cool arrangement, guys.
There we are. Not strictly speaking a rock song, but it's Dolly, so it's fine.
I mean, it's just as rock as like some of the other stuff.
Well, there we go.
Being honest. All right, moving along.
Okay, so this is the last track on this episode, which is track 15. And we will run through track 16 through 30 and some of the other bonus stuff that come with some of the issues on the next episode. So this is one we will close this episode with. So track 15, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, which is the Rolling Stones cover. And on this particular track is Pink and Brandi Carlile. And apparently Dolly Parton really wanted Mick Jagger to provide some vocals on this track.
Yeah.
But there was a scheduling conflict and Mick Jagger couldn't do it.
I read that too. Now, Brandi Carlile is a country singer that I'm not super familiar with, but her and Dolly have done a few things together. I've seen them perform together.
Yes.
She has a nice voice and I've heard good things about her. But the standout for me on this was actually Pink. I think Pink should do a version of I Can't Get No Satisfaction because she has that rough sound to her voice. And I thought she sounded the best out of everybody singing on it.
Yeah, I mean, Pink does have a rock voice. There was some talk of a Van Halen reunion tour before we lost Eddie Van Halen, and it was going to be called the Kitchen Sink Tour. And that never happened. And then they were talking about doing a tribute tour at one point, which was going to have Alex Van Halen and Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth. And David Lee Roth said, we're going to need a few stunt doubles to do some of these older songs. And I vote Pink and cover my parts. So even name checked her as a rock singer.
Well, and I don't know how much you know about Pink too. I love Pink, by the way. I'm a Pink super fan, but she does like acrobatics when she performs live. Have you ever seen any of that? Like flying from the ceiling type stuff while she's singing live. It's crazy.
No, I have not seen that.
I might have to send you. You'd be shocked. We'll put it up there with the things you learn with Miley singing and now Pink. But I just thought her voice was that nice grit to it. I mean, Brandi Carlile and Dolly sounded great. Their voices sounded good together. But Pink's tone is what rounded it out for me. And I think that it would be cool, just for my own opinion, if Pink did her own version. And I actually put that on Facebook today, but I blocked you from being able to see it because I didn't want you to see it before the episode. And 3 other people agreed with me that Pink should do her own version.
Well, maybe she's covered it live. I don't know.
I don't know, but the most iconic version is Miss Britney Spears' version. God, it's so bad. I love Britney, but have you ever heard Britney Spears' version?
Yes, I have. And she's all kind of breathy and stuff. And it's like,
It's
no.
it's weird. And I know it from the movie Crossroads, which I have very distinct memories. I don't know if you knew that there was a movie called Crossroads, Tim, or if you've ever seen it. But there's this movie where Brittany and three of her friends go across the United States, and Brittany wins a singing contest to make them money to like get their car fixed, and that's what she sings. And I distinctly remember I was probably young teenage, maybe like 12, 13 years old when that came out. And me and all my friends were so excited. I think 15 of us went together to watch that movie. Then me and Molly, who was on the podcast, not Miley and Dolly together, everybody, actually Molly, watched it together as adults. And it is so horrendous. It's such a bad movie. Like, I love it because it's iconic and I have that nostalgia around it, but it's really bad. And her version, I'm sorry, Brittany, it's a no from me. I sound like Randy Jackson on American Idol. It's a no from me, dog. Stupid thing he was quoted as saying all the time.
Well, just as well, we have the pink Brandy Carlisle Dolly version to cleanse the palate.
What did you think of it, Tim? What was your thoughts?
I thought it was fine. I think, like you say, Pink is a great singer. Dolly's good on here. Brandy Carlisle is doing a solid on here. I think it would have been better if Mick Jagger was involved.
I think so too. And I will say, whoever's playing guitar on it did that riff. It's just so interesting because I know it's probably one of the most iconic guitar riffs ever, right? That dun, 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 dun. Everybody knows it, but it goes so hard every time I hear it. It's one of those songs that, like, if I have headphones on and I'm just listening to that breakdown, perfection to me. I don't even care who's singing on it. And as cliche as it is, there's a lot of great Rolling Stone songs out there. That breakdown is just, I don't know. I love it.
I've seen the Stones perform that live and played that song live. I've seen them play that song live. So, yes.
You've probably played that song live, have you not?
More times than I care to remember.
I was going to say, Tim, it's one of those songs that I feel like you've probably played that guitar riff 1,000 times.
Yeah, we used to do it in Moroccan Soul a million years ago.
That's fair. But I think as far as like iconic sounds, it works. And they sound great. But I stand by it. Pink, if you're listening and you haven't already done it, you should do your own version of it. I can't get no satisfaction.
There we are. Top tips from Joy.
All right. Do you have anything you want to leave the people with, Tim?
I would say pull out your copy of Rockstar and have a listen to it and see if we was on or off with our various critiques of this first half of the album. And also just be kind to everyone that you meet.
Yes. And we're very excited to go back over this next week. And bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.